We've all heard the stories, right? Maybe we've even lived them. That long, often frustrating search for the right therapy, the right medication. But what if we've been looking at mental health all wrong? Today, we're diving into a sci-fi novel called Optimizers 2050 that imagines a future where we don't just treat symptoms, we actually get in there and repair the brain itself. And it really all boils down to this one huge question. What if we could stop just putting band-aids on symptoms? What if we could go straight to the root of the problem, the brain's incredibly complex wiring, and fix it directly? That's the core idea, the big what if that we're going to unpack today. So let's jump ahead to the year 2050. In this world, psychiatry as we know it, well, it's been totally transformed. It's now this precise brain-based science, and they call it optimization medicine. And this is where things get really interesting. The whole job description has changed. Psychiatrists aren't just there to manage your symptoms anymore. They're called optimizers. And their mission, their whole purpose, is to find these little disruptions in the brain's electrical and chemical symphony and restore its natural, healthy flow. Now, to really get how big of a deal this is, you gotta see the before and after. We're talking about a massive leap from the way things are done now to this new data-driven approach. It's like going from a simple checklist to a full-blown detailed map of the brain. Okay, so this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On the left, you've got our current era, what the book calls the DSM era. It relies on checklists of symptoms and gives us these broad labels like schizophrenia, often without knowing the precise biological why. But on the right, that's optimization medicine. It's a quantitative science that literally maps out the specific disruptions in the brain's systems. It's all about understanding the mechanism of the illness, not just describing how it looks on the outside. And this whole futuristic idea, it's not just pulled out of thin air. It's actually built on a real scientific foundation that's been growing for over a century. This timeline here shows how this idea of a disconnected brain has been evolving for like 150 years, from theories way back in the 1880s all the way to modern neuroscience. The optimizers of 2050 are really just taking the next logical step. So the big question is, how do they actually do it? Well, it's not guesswork. It's not trial and error. Optimization medicine is built on a really structured three-phase scientific method. Let's break it down. First up is investigation. This is where they look at a patient's condition not as some label, but as a very specific disturbance in their brain's dynamic systems. Then comes validation. They use this incredible technology, which we'll get to get hard data that confirms their diagnosis. No more guessing. And finally, there's intervention. This is where they use targeted therapies to actively help the brain reorganize and heal itself. Now, that whole investigation phase, it's actually based on a real concept from neuroscience called dynamic core theory. The basic idea is that your consciousness isn't just sitting in one spot in your brain. Instead, it comes from this constantly shifting team of brain regions, all working together as a single unified whole. To make that a little easier to picture, just think of the dynamic core as your brain's senior management team. Its entire job is to make sure all the different departments, vision, language, memory, emotion, are all talking to each other effectively and working together in harmony. So what happens in mental illness? Well, basically, that management team falls apart. The dynamic core starts to disintegrate. In the book, a patient named Steve has psychosis, but he's not just labeled schizophrenic. His condition is diagnosed as a segregated dynamic core. And his hallucinations, they're seen not as some mystery, but as a predictable result of a total breakdown in his brain's internal communication system. It's a system error. Okay, so to do all of this, you're going to need some seriously advanced tech, right? Absolutely. So let's check out the Optimizers Toolkit and see what kind of futuristic gadgets make all this possible. The toolkit really has three main parts. For the investigation phase, they've got psychiatric brain profiling, or PBP. Think of it like a super smart software that mathematically connects a patient's symptoms to specific errors in their brain's wiring. Then, for validation, they use the MRA, which is this mind-blowing VR headset that lets doctors literally see a 3D model of the brain working in real time. And finally, for intervention, they use brain plasticity inducers, or BPIs. These are therapies designed to help the brain physically rewire and heal itself. Let's just hang on the MRE for a second because this thing is an absolute game changer. Imagine putting on a VR headset, and while you explore some virtual world, your doctor is watching a live 3D reconstruction of your neural pathways. They can see exactly where communication is breaking down as it happens. I mean, talk about the ultimate diagnostic tool. Now, I know what you might be thinking. With all this talk about systems and technology and brain maps, this future sounds a little cold, maybe, a little impersonal. But the novel actually makes a huge point of saying the ultimate goal is deeply, deeply human. And this is so important. The intervention phase isn't passive, like just taking a pill and hoping for the best. No, it's an active process. They use therapies like guided neurofeedback and cognitive training to help the patient literally rebuild and reestablish balance in their own brain. It's all about empowerment, about true healing from the inside out. And it's all captured perfectly in this one powerful line from Professor Cross, one of the mentors in the book. He says, optimization is not just restoring the brain, it is restoring the person. And that just anchors this whole high-tech vision right back where it belongs, in empathy, and in the idea that behind every complex system is a human being. So let's pull it all together. The big ideas from Optimizers 2050 are pretty clear. It imagines a future where psychiatry becomes this precise, systems-based science. It reframes mental illness as a measurable disruption in the brain's networks. And the focus shifts completely from just managing symptoms to actually restoring the brain's healthy organization, all while keeping compassionate, person-centered care right at the heart of it all. And that kind of leaves us with one last, huge, philosophical question to chew on. This whole vision is about mapping the brain to heal it. But if we could actually map the brain's intricate networks with perfect precision, would we, in the process, finally be able to map the mind itself? That's the really provocative thought at the core of this whole thing.